That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about men. Literally. And figuratively. It is the third film directed by Alex Garland, which A24 is releasing May 20th, 2022, before it makes a pit stop as a special screening in the Director's Fortnight at the 2022 Cannes Film Festival.
Do I know Alex's other two films?
Formerly he was a screenwriter. I know you saw Dredd, which he wrote. His debut was Ex Machina, starring Oscar Isaac and Alicia Vikander, which I know you haven't seen, but I've told you is quite good. I believe you did see his second film, Annihilation, starring Natalie Portman, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Tessa Thompson.
I didn't. I keep saying I want to watch it.
Okay.
At that time, but then,
That was really good as well. I like both those films. Overall, I liked this film. I think that it, not in every moment, but in some moments, instead of subtext, it is literally the text, as in it's on the nose a bit with its metaphorical folk horror, but I think it's an interesting conversation piece.
The basic story is Jessie Buckley plays a character
named Harper.
It's modern time. She lives in London. Mm-hmm. Okay, she has told her husband she wants a divorce. And he says, if you divorce me, I'll kill myself. They get into a fight. He hits her. She kicks him out of the apartment. He goes upstairs and falls off the roof or whatever and is impaled and dies. So there's some ambiguity on whether he intended to jump and kill himself or if he fell trying to climb back into the apartment. But either way, he's gone. So she books like a mansion out in the countryside to get some rest and relaxation. So she gets out there and she's greeted by a man who's like the innkeeper.
Geoffrey, played by Rory Kinnear.
He's kind of weird with her. We see her throughout the day interacting with other men. And it's very important to know, as we see in the trailer, that every character is played by this, what's his name?
Rory Kinnear.
And they're all sort of being weird with her. It's also important to know that she talks to her friend, her best girlfriend, about the weird things that are happening.
Riley.
And the friend says, girl, I'm going to come out there and be with you. So, okay, so friend is coming. But things culminate when Jessie Buckley's character goes back to the house and the innkeeper man's being weird with her. So she gets in her car and as she's trying to speed off, she runs his ass over. She gets out to check on him. He's not dead. He hops in her car and tries to run her over. She goes into the house, and in the house, she sees like a pregnant person with this man's head, but like a vagina and a belly. And this person is like delivering babies, like versions of itself. And the final version is her dead husband. Mm-hmm. And she says, what do you want from me?
And he says, your love.
Your love. And she's like, all right. Then it's like morning time now, and she goes outside, and her friend who is coming to visit her shows up. Mm-hmm. And she sees that her friend is there, and her friend's pregnant. The end.
There you go. Yeah, that is basically the story. It's of note, what we find out happening to her husband is told in flashback. That doesn't all happen at once. Kind of delivers that piecemeal. So yeah, again, as I said, I think that it is a metaphorical folk horror film about misogyny and about how all men are the same. I think there are a lot of ways to read a lot of the things that are happening. Even at the press screening I was at, which was minimally attended, there were people that were very uncomfortable in the birthing sequence that got up and left, even though at that point there were only 10 to 15 minutes left of the film.
I will say I watched the trailer before the screening, and I was very excited to watch the movie. Mm-hmm. But why wasn't I able to attend?
I wasn't allowed to bring a guest.
Oh, sure. But based off the story, I feel like I probably would have been a little disappointed. I
think it's kind of like A24's marketing of The Witch, which is a film I did really like from Robert Eggers back in 2015. But again, I think that is mismarketed. Also, that Trey Edward Schultz film, It Comes at Night. That was an A24 film. I also felt like they mismarket it. It's a little more.
Or the one that I really liked about the witch and the other witch, who's like, oh my god, and the mom locks the girl in a cave.
Oh, that's
Isn't that A24?
No, You Won't Be Alone. I believe that's Focus Features.
Oh, never mind.
I don't think they marketed.
I did like that movie though.
I did like that a lot as well. So this is very cerebral. It feels like kind of an esoteric episode of something like Black Mirror, maybe. Again, I really liked it. I think Jessie Buckley gives a very good performance. And as I said, I think there's some stuff that's a little too just on the nose. Like when she first arrives at the estate, there are all these apple trees and she picks an apple off the tree and eats it, and it's directly addressed about, oh, that's not the kind of fruit a woman wants to eat. And there are a couple other moments like that.
Well, something you mentioned that I thought was interesting is she never says everyone I'm seeing looks the same.
No.
So, and the car incident, the car we see is actually crashed. So from you telling it to me, I understood that she really did go to this manor. She's not in her head. She went, she's experiencing these things with these men who are all sort of being weird with her. But as the audience, we're sort of like the symbolism of what she's experiencing.
Well, yeah, and
seems very obvious.
And if men could give birth, they'd only give birth to themselves. Kind of this rigid idea of masculinity is they can only imprint these same things. That's why.
Well, you're talking about that to explain why the friend was pregnant, the girlfriend.
No, I think that's why we see this character giving birth to itself
repeatedly.
Oh,
right. But I'm saying you're also now going to explain why you think the lady friend at the very end is pregnant.
I don't know. That is a bit more ambiguous to me. As in,
I thought you had a good explanation earlier that related to what you just said. That the man, that man thing giving birth is like, leave it to men raising these men. They're going to be like these toxic assholes, and the balance of that is like women having a hand or a say in these men will balance them out.
Right, because all of these versions of Geoffrey are putting something upon her, much like her husband was, who's basically cursing her. He's threatening to kill himself if she divorces him because the guilt is going to hang over her and you know, mark her life irreparably. And about how men create broken versions of themselves, and it takes a woman to kind of absorb all that trauma for them. And she is a woman that is rejecting that. And I think you can also read this pregnant friend showing up, played by Gayle Rankin in the end, as kind of being, well, she, you know, she has chosen...
violence? No.
kind of the predetermined use... She's taken the predetermined role of woman, even as utilizing her body to procreate, if you will. I thought of a lot of things from like women's studies. This reminded me like if Phyllis Chesler, who wrote Women in Madness, if she directed a horror film, because it's playing with that, you know, woman alone in the house going crazy tropes. There's also something used with dandelion seeds, and there's a corpse of a deer rotting in the woods, and there's a naked man that's homeless living in the woods that accosts her in several scenes. That's also played by Rory Kinnear, and the dandelion seeds come up, and that to me represents, you know, how Mother Earth is always presented as, you know, vestige of femininity, right? And that she is technically Mother Earth, nature being violated every time seeds are planted, like her flesh is being used to reproduce. And that also reminded me of somebody like Andrea Dworkin, who was a famous feminist who she wrote a text called Intercourse, in which she posited that all heterosexual penetrative intercourse with women is rape, because they are literally being raped every time they have sex, which was, you know, a very controversial way to look at things. But again, this film had me thinking about all of those kinds of things. Also, Jessie Buckley. So you didn't see this. I think you probably have comments about her hairstyle.
I like her.
I like her a lot too.
But I like her in like how I like handsome ladies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not saying she's an unattractive person. I think she's cute, and she's a very good actor.
I agree on both counts, and clearly takes difficult material based on Lost Daughter, and I'm Thinking of Ending Things. There are sequences where Garland, and he's using his usual film team here. You got Rob Hardy as the cinematographer, and Mark Digby as the
Not Tom Hardy. Go ahead.
Mark Digby as the production designer. You can tell this feels like a well-oiled machine. There are sequences where we see her screaming a lot, especially in the flashbacks, which have this kind of creepy red tint to them. But the way that the slow motion screams are filmed and how her head looks with the haircut and everything, it was reminding me of some famous pieces of art by Francis Bacon, notably the 3 studies for figures on the base of a crucifixion. And if you look those up when you splice this together, that figure was also what influenced H.R. Giger to create the Alien in Ridley Scott's original 1979 horror film. But to me, I want to say I would be surprised if that was not on Alex Garland's mind when he was making this. Of course, everybody's going to be talking about the pregnancy scene. That also reminded me of that film Society. Remember from the late 80s, which is all about, it's not very well done, but the special effects are great, where the subtext is all about class, and in the end it's like that giant orgy where all the bodies are morphing together. This feels very much like that, but on gender. I've shown you that movie at least twice.
That makes me think of that Kylie Minogue video where all the people are piled in together. What is that?
All the Lovers.
All the Lovers.
Yes, but the much more the nastier version of that. Just lots to say about how women walk about in the world and how men kind of even though this is set out in the countryside in wide open spaces. It feels suffocating from the get-go, with Geoffrey showing her this very thorough tour around the house, and then has to make mention about how, don't throw your tampons in the toilet because there's a septic tank, when really, you could just say, only flush toilet paper, please. And the vicar, there's a creepy scene with him where she kind of unloads, and he said, basically tells her that men need to hit women sometimes, and you have to let them give them the chance to apologize.
What did we just watch where the mom is telling the daughter that?
The Michelet story.
Oh, Surviving Compton. Dre, Suge, and Michelet.
Yes. So,
which I recommend. It's on Netflix.
But also hard to watch because, this is playing with this inherent menace that women face. Even out in the woods where there's no one else, she has to be afraid physically. Anyway.
There's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about.
I don't know that we need to do that now, but...
her husband was played by, I might be saying his name wrong, Paapa Essiedu from I May Destroy You, whose handful of scenes I think are effective. I like Rory Kinnear a lot. Again, there's a...
Is that Greg Kinnear's kid?
No, he's British. There are a range of, even the friendlier men are creepers. There was, what else was I reminded of? Oh, there's an old Marlon Brando film from 1950, right before he really became big with Streetcar.
You mean physically big?
Well, that too. Became a
big star.
A celebrity, and then became literally a big star. It's called The Man. It was directed by Fred Zinnemann, and I'd never seen it, but I thought of that title watching this, and I looked it up, and I had to show you the tagline for that was a completely new experience between men and women, which I think would have been a pretty subversive little tagline for this film. Again, I think that if you're going and thinking it's a straight up horror film, you'll be disappointed. I mean, this will be automatically classified as something like elevated horror. I would say that this is more like metaphorical horror, but with tinges of folk horror in there, but I did really enjoy it. There's a lot to talk about. However, I don't know that it justifies feature film length either, because there is kind of a monotonous affect that sets in, before the second act is done.
What would you give it?
I would give it 3.5.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No.
Listen to our podcast. Bye.